it was the team that used to call Oakland home that gave the Browns yet another loss. And James, if you want to go ahead and bring up the box score, and we'll dive into that a little bit.
Do we have to?
I mean, I guess we don't have to, right? I mean, there wasn't a lot of scoring. Box score, the term score is probably stretched a little thin there, because considering one offensive touchdown, and then the defense did have a scoop and score. So they did match the offense as far as scoring goes. But once again, just not enough points. We can't get to that 20-point mark. Once again, I think we've had, 17 points in the first week, 18 in the second week, and victory, believe it or not. And then 16? Yeah, 16 now. So 20-16 loss in Las Vegas. Guys, why can't we score? Why the freak can't we score? What's the answers? I have my own answers. I want to know what you guys think.
Let's see. We don't run the ball. We didn't try to run the ball. We are attempting to run this brand new offense that they got no preseason work on really against any kind of live competition, except versus the joint scrimmage they did against Minnesota. And I'm sure as shit they probably didn't show them a whole lot during that scrimmage as well. And I'm not even sure what the offense is at this point. What was Watson? 24 for 32, but still didn't even break 200 yards, which is a little concerning to me. Had a $176. Hell, between the two QBs, they barely broke 300 because I think Minshew only threw for $130. I want to say.
Yep.
But there's no continuity whatsoever in this offense, and if it's dink and dunk and short passes, they're not going to do anything. Now, granted, we did see Amari drop one, and then the bomb got called back for the holding play. Which, I mean, say what you want, there was holding on the play. I don't think that it affected it that much, especially when Watson stepped up. The defender was able to try and go for him, so I don't feel like the holding should have been called, but that's also me, getting tired of watching the same old BS. But yeah, we just don't. We have no continuity on offense, no speed, no nothing. So that's why that's in my opinion, that's why we can't score, and the fact that this is basically the fourth game that they've ever even tried whatever this offensive system is, and it's just not working in my eyes. I don't know. D, what you think?
Yeah, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head. This offense, it's supposed to be this brand new thing and so great, and it's almost like clockwork. They come out, they have a great first drive. Looks like they can win Super Bowls. And this isn't the first week that's happened this way, where you have a time-consuming, you're in the teens for the amount of plays, you march down the field, score a touchdown, and then after that, it's like it's like the coach from The Waterboy. He loses his little, notebook, and he forgets what the hell he's doing. And it shows on the field. Players aren't lining up right. You got Amari Cooper letting the ball bounce off of his shoulder pad instead of using his hands to make a catch. You got Jerry Jeudy, he'll show flashes, but not what you not what we thought we were getting when we made that trade. You got Elijah Moore making a good catch on a diving catch and then not having another target despite being, wide open 95% of the plays, every play, or whatever his dad said on Twitter, and then tried to, bring it back a little bit so he wasn't called OBJ's dad or whatever. And it's just one thing after the other. And here we are, we're not even on October yet, and the apathy is set in. It's like they are who they are. And, you know, at least we finally have our first round draft pick this coming spring. So we have that to look forward to. But this was the easy part of the schedule. You know, this was when we were supposed to get some wins built up, and then, you know, you get to a certain point and then you say, oh, if they go 500 the rest of the way, they could sneak in as a wild card team. But looking at the team now, you know, even this coming week, you know, Jaden Daniels is playing great as a rookie. You know, you can't even count this one as a win coming up. And it's sad. Like, the talent's there, but they just can't put it together. And, you know, you can say, oh, Watson's rusty or Watson this or that. But like you said, Clarence, like, play in the damn preseason, get this shit figured out, and then maybe you'll actually look like a football team come September.
You'd like to hope. You'd like to think so. James, what's your take on the offense? I can't hear you.
You know, with watching Deshaun play yesterday, I think we can all agree there was some improvement there for him, but there was really couldn't go much lower. But the offensive line never did him any favors previous weeks. Where this week he did look a little more comfortable, but stats wise, you're still looking at 241 total yards. Did we improve on our penalties? Yeah, 5 for 38. Time possession was about equal. But, you know, he still didn't, you know, when you look across the board here, with 176 yards and the touchdown and the interception, guys, we all know that really isn't on him. After seeing the one view of the pass route for Amari Cooper yesterday, he looked like he hit him right on time. And, you know, I'm sure Amari would own that one. And got the deflection and the interception by the Raiders. So that would have been another long completion. And then later on in the game, the touchdown pass that was called back due to holding to Amari Cooper, that, you know, he'd have been looking at, you know, damn near 250, right? Wouldn't you say? Or maybe even a little bit more. So I think that would have been his shining moment, at least as a Cleveland Browns quarterback, but there was just too many other flaws. The one thing I keep looking at the offense, and this is just kind of in general. This just isn't for yesterday. It's just as a whole. And everybody was doing it on, you know, the Browns didn't play till 4:25, but everybody was doing it on X. Everybody was making comments about Joe Flacco's in the game. Look, he just threw a touchdown pass. Baker Mayfield's on fire, playing well at Tampa against Philadelphia. So two former Browns quarterbacks, Flacco and Mayfield, did beat and take down the state of Pennsylvania yesterday by taking down the Steelers and the Eagles. So I got to give them credit there. And the one thing I want to lead back to is, you know, I know Flacco's gone and he's not coming back, and that's perfectly fine. I understand the business side of it. We can't divorce Deshaun Watson because of that contract. And until Jimmy Haslam and Dee Haslam make a decision to eat the money. But today, I think yesterday, he wasn't really the problem. No. But I just look back as a whole, looking at what the team's lost, and what you don't have out there is you don't have that leadership that a Joe Flacco had. You don't have that credibility and respect level that Joe Flacco had as being a Super Bowl MVP and champion. You look at Bill Callahan, who was the offensive line coach, who also coached the Oakland Raiders to a Super Bowl. They did not win when Tampa beat them that year, but he still has that credibility and the respect as one of the best offensive line coaches in the NFL. We don't blame him for leaving to go coach with his son. But my concern is that we just lost so much. If you look at two guys that are on our roster that can't play, to me, they're the two biggest components outside of Amari Cooper, David Njoku, and the good news that we got at least out of this that we've heard is that Nick Chubb is going to start practicing this week. Those two guys right there are the other difference makers they can give us some kind of a balance to an offense. A quarterback's best friend is a running game and the tight end. So just relying on Amari Cooper, and I've said last year before, I don't feel Amari is necessarily one of the top ones in the league. To me, he feels more like a 2, and as how the Browns have treated him in the offseason, not looking to extend him. Go ahead and extend Jerry Jeudy, but they didn't extend the guy that's had back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. That's a lot of positivity, a lot of experience, a lot of respect, and we're not even talking about Wyatt Teller not being out there either. One of our Pro Bowl guards. So there's a lot missing here, and I think our expectations are the Raiders had their top 2 players. Gardner Minshew didn't even throw a touchdown. They had rushing touchdowns yesterday, and like you said, he only threw for 130 yards. So how in the world did they beat us with 20 points? And the answer is that we're just not scoring enough, period. I think, and Clarence, we beat that horse last year about our road defense. And yesterday, I think the defense, even though they got gashed in the running game against a team that does not run the ball well, we still are, from a scoreboard standpoint, are keeping and added 6 points, scoop and score once again from the defense. I think the defense gave enough to at least put the offense in a position that if you can score more than 20 points, you can come out with a road victory here in the NFL. We just don't have enough, I think, our top guys, our difference makers, on that side of the ball yet. And until Njoku and Chubb are out there, there's not going to be, I think, any big lift to this team. Sorry I was long-winded on that one, but there's a lot there.
I mean, I kind of agree. It was a comedy of errors. The Browns cannot. You hear it a lot. The guy on WKNR says a lot. Complimentary football. We don't play any kind of complimentary football whatsoever. That's in the words of Gerard Sherry. Either the offense is playing okay, the defense isn't, or vice versa, or it's just nothing goes together well at this particular moment. Even Stefanski, like smartest dude in the room. I do not understand that last. You saw him do it in the first half when he tried to get him to jump, right? I did not understand him with under a minute left trying to get them to jump and then having to piss away that timeout, which effectively ended the game if you don't get the 4th down. You don't get that 4th down conversion on 4th and 3. Because you know what? If you just go ahead and snap that ball right there and run the play, even if you fail on 4th down, you still have 3 timeouts. So you can stop the clock 3 times, maybe get the ball back with, maybe 30 seconds, maybe a little under 30 seconds left. But this dude, trying to be the smartest dude in the room, tried to get these dudes to jump, pissed away the timeout, and then at that point, it's like, well, if we don't get the 4th down, we're screwed. It's like they find ways to not win or not to stay in games or prolong games. I'll never understand it. It's kind of funny because what we're watching right now is it's very similar to, a lot of what they did last year, but it was one of those things where it was okay because we were winning. We ran the ball how many times yesterday? We ran the ball 22 times, threw it 32. It's not an awful ratio, but I'd still like to see them try and attempt to run the ball a tad bit more. But last year when we were running the ball 20 times and throwing it 45 and Flacco was winning games, it was like, all right, it's not working this year. It's not working. So
and guys? Clarence, there's somebody I left out too in my conversation that's a big part of this, to me, in my opinion, even though he filled in during Chubb's injury, but he filled in greatly, is Kareem Hunt. We didn't replace 10. He had 10 touchdowns last year, if I recall. 10.
Sure.
So you're taking that away from the offense too, and you're looking at where else you're going to get it. And when you put in, you want to run and be physical because we can't pass defend. and Deontay Foreman gets 4 carries for 2 yards, and he's the, in my opinion, Kareem Hunt replacement. What the hell is that?
He's wearing his number.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's good that it sounds like Chubb's on the mend, and may not play
I don't
this
know.
week, still
I'm
ramping up, but
just
um, he's been out close to a year, so and he is a running back. He does have a lot of miles on his legs, has some injuries starting to accumulate, going back to his college days. So, you know, expecting him to come back and just be the elixir for the run offense, I think isn't fair to him. You know, he'll definitely be better than what we've had, but to expect him to rush the ball 20, 25 times, eclipse 100 yards each week, I think that's setting us up for more disappointment. And and Njoku has his issues with drops as well. He'll make a spectacular catch in traffic, and then on a quick little hook, it'll just bounce off of his hands, and like his huge ass muscles got in the way. I don't know. So, yeah, getting them back would help. Anytime you can get your starters back does help. And yeah, there's been a lot of shuffling on the offensive line, but you know, the Browns aren't the only team that are having injury issues. The Raiders were without their arguably their best offensive player and defensive player, and they still beat us. And the only reason we were in it is off of a scoop and score, and those, you can't count on those type of scores week in and week out. They're great when they happen, and it did bring us back into the game. Unfortunately, Hopkins shanked that extra point, and that changed the trajectory of the rest of the game for the Browns. But I don't know.
Well, and the concern is that we have lost what we thought was stable now is culture and discipline. Like we did
Mm.
improve on, like I said, we improved on our penalties a little bit, but we had to, once again. I think we're still the most penalized team in the NFL. But to me, this team right now lacks attention to detail. Like Clarence said at the beginning, the
Mm-hmm.
rhythm of the offense. There's just no continuity right now. With Dawad Jones and what he's doing as a swing door on the right tackle spot, unfortunately, from a conditioning wise, I don't think he's where he needs to be in order to have stability on that side. I heard on sports radio today they're talking about, hey, why are they not putting a tight end over there to help pick up some of these blocks? I mean, you shouldn't have to all the time, but he's totally missing reads. And when Deshaun got on his ass in the game, I totally respected that. That's the kind of
Mm-hmm.
stuff I want to see. And the
Right.
other part, without or just including the attention to detail, is the accountability. And any good accountability on any championship team, showing leadership, accountability starts with self accountability. And I don't want to just hear it in the press conference. I want to see it throughout practice, through the week. I want to see it carry into a game, to where these guys are playing more disciplined football and just look like an actual unit out there that's on the same page. We keep hearing in press conferences after games, we got to get on the same page. To me, that is coaching. That is coaching right there. Now the players, they're obviously accountable to get their timing down on their routes and passes and the handoffs and blocking schemes and who's passing off to who on the line when they're blitzing. But this team, there's just some really big key components that are missing that aren't coming back, like I mentioned, and there's some that's going to be coming back, and I just don't know if they're going to be enough. 3 Pro Bowlers of Wyatt Teller, Nick Chubb, and David Njoku should make a big difference. And if they don't, then what are we doing on offense, Ken Dorsey? What are we doing on offense, Kevin Stefanski? Kevin Stefanski, you came as an offensive coach from Minnesota. And you know what that reminds me of? When Brian Billick was the offense coordinator at Minnesota, and he got the Ravens job. And a lot of people were thinking that his offense is going to be lights out because back then, Clarence, if I remember right, wasn't that the was that the Dante Culpepper
Yeah, it's Culpepper
teams?
now. Yep.
Yeah,
It's Culpepper
and
now.
Moss. I mean, those were some really high profile teams, scoring offensively. But when he came to Baltimore, the identity became more about defense based on the leadership that they had. And that leadership through the draft was Ray Lewis. That leadership was Ed Reed. Leadership on offense and toughness was Jonathan Ogden and Jamal Lewis. And somehow, some way, when that offensive mind left Minnesota and became to Baltimore, he adapted to what that franchise was. I'm still trying to figure out if we are that franchise. We know Pittsburgh just keeps scrapping along, and I'm glad they lost, but they're still 3-1, and Fields played better on Sunday, so still, obviously we'd rather be 3-1 than 1-3, right? Still, I'm just concerned overall as a franchise, as a football team, that we can even get back to where we were last year. And if you remember in my predictions of 9 wins, I said 9 wins is just being optimistic. I don't even know if we can get there, but it's going to be a long season, especially on the schedule we have. Like you talked about, Derek, that the easy part of the schedule is already upon us, and now we thought Washington was easy, and it's not going to be based on the great play of rookie quarterback Jaden Daniels.
What's up, guys?
Hey, welcome to the panel, the godfather of BelieveLand Media, Mr. Kevin Sletz. Kevin, how are you feeling tonight?
A lot better than I was at this time last week, that's for sure. Still on the mend.
We're in the middle of Browns talk, so welcome to hell.
Yeah, why did I jump in now?
Good times over here.
Yeah.
I will say the one thing I am kind of enjoying about this entire thing, and I shouldn't say that I'm enjoying it, but I'm a Browns fan. I am the typical root for the name on the front, not the back. But I'm finding it funny that all the people who were taking screenshots of like Baker missing guys and everything, and they wanted Baker out of here and all that good stuff. Now they got Watson, and they were, everybody slobbing Watson. And now when Watson's making the mistakes and people are taking screenshots, that's different. That's different. And it's like, what are we doing here? Like, what are we doing here? I'm looking at this team as a whole. They're not good. I'm back to questioning Stefanski. I was questioning again last year. I questioned him last year, but he was winning. So what can you question? What can you question when you go 11-6 and you're throwing the ball 40 times and you're running at 20, but you're winning? And it's like, okay. But I'm questioning him. I'm questioning what this offense is supposed to be. I'm back to thinking that we have overrated our players on both sides of the ball. I have not been an MJ Emerson guy since the moment we drafted him. I thought for sure as shit we were going to take George Pickens, and I was like, we set the wide receiver spot, but no. We took MJ Emerson, and every time I see his ass get ate up, I'm like, man, this is just why do we slob this dude? He's a solid player, but he's not special. And I feel like that's a big thing with a lot of our guys on both sides of the ball. We got Miles on defense. We got the Warden on defense, and on offense, do we have anybody that's like special at this particular moment? Watson showed those flashes yesterday. He did show those flashes. He was on the run, but he did show those flashes of being able to escape and make plays with his feet. But for the rest of the squad, I feel like a lot of our guys have been exposed for not being who we thought they were.
I agree 100%. Like I think we talked in the text about it, and Emerson's name came up, and you mentioned Pickens, and That pick will look a lot better right now for sure, especially with Cooper's head up his ass right now, and Jerry Jeudy not doing much. Elijah Moore doing his thing, nothing, which is nothing. So not getting much production there. But my take, I thought Watson played pretty well overall. And Clarence, you mentioned the screenshots of the open receivers downfield, but what you're not seeing is the 3 linemen that are in his face that are enabling him to see those guys downfield for most of the time.
Yep.
Especially yesterday. I don't know how he completed that pass to Moore yesterday because that lineman was in his face when he threw that ball.
Yeah.
But it was a good throw. But, encouraging signs from him yesterday. But, the offense as a whole is the play calling is terrible. And, I don't care if he's 2-time coach of the year. This continues. He's got to be on the hot seat. I don't care. I don't care how good looking he is.
Thank you.
Sorry, women of Cleveland.
Thank you.
But it's time to hold him accountable. It's time to hold Andrew Berry accountable for this flawed roster because it's obviously flawed. I mean, I don't know what they do at this point. You got to hope that the guys start playing as you expected them to play. You got to hope Cooper gets back to being that number 1 guy and stops dropping balls. You got to hope they get something out of Jeudy. You got to hope Watson continues to improve. You're putting all your faith in Nick Chubb coming back and being the Nick Chubb of old, but you have a patchwork offensive line that's nobody can run behind right now. When the hell is Jack Conklin going to play, by the way? Why is this guy still on the roster? How many games has he played in his Browns career? That's what I want to know.
He's played Ty Jerome.
It's been a while.
He's played Ty Jerome amount of the games.
Limited practice, and then he's out.
Yeah.
When is DeJuan Jones going to stop being a turnstile at right tackle? He's got the Jed Will syndrome going on. There's so much. Like we could go on for hours. It's a total mess right now. I don't know what the answer is, to be honest.
Well, and we did compliment the guys. We were happy about the extensions, right? We think prior to this season, the guys deserve their extensions, right? That being Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski. Is there any debate on that going into this year? Based on stability of the franchise, based on where we were, which was LA Clippers basement level?
I'll give them stability. Stability I'm okay with, but I mean, it was real easy for me to look at that AB draft, all those AB draft picks and be like, all right, this guy can't draft. Can't draft for shit, honestly. But again, for the stability of the franchise, sure. And my love-hate relationship with Stefanski has been well documented over Brown and Orange Weekly and every other podcast we've done since we started this. There's times I'm like, this dude is smart, and then there's times I'm like, this guy is an idiot. I don't know what he is thinking about. Like I said, smartest dude in the room. And Derek, I've stolen Fit Freddy from you. I steal that every time.
Yeah, that's a good nickname.
Because honestly, if you look at it, like the penalties and all that stuff, this is the kind of stuff that Hugh, the team when it was coached by Hugh, were committing these crazy ass penalties, and even going back to Freddie. I mean, say what you will, but the most disciplined Browns team I've seen in probably since 18 was that 8-game span when they had Greg Williams coaching that team. And they might have gave up some points. They might have bended a little bit, but they led the league in forcing turnovers, and they weren't committing a bunch of penalties. Simple as that. They weren't committing back-breaking penalties. So
let me ask you guys this. This is where I'm at. To me, is it fair to be pro scoring touchdowns and pro winning and not look like you're just absolutely destroying Deshaun Watson and destroying Kevin Stefanski? Is it possible to do it? Because we're not scoring like we need to, and we're not winning. And that's what those two, as the top two, when you look at a Brady and a Belichick, do you look at Watson and Stefanski, and does that resemble anything like that? Or any great quarterback with their head coach, Mahomes with Andy Reid right now? Does that look even similar at all? I think it's an easy answer.
Shit looks like Baker and Stefanski at the end of 21. Like, that's what
Has
these games
Kevin
look like.
Stefanski ever had his own quarterback his entire time here in Cleveland? Because Baker was whose guy, right? Who drafted him?
The Doors.
Because it wasn't Andrew Baird.
Dorsey.
Yeah, that was Dorsey's guy.
Mm-hmm.
So in all this time that Kevin's been coach, in fairness to him, has he ever had the guy that he thinks resembles that can run his offense the way he wants to run it? Is the answer Flacco for that short period? Because it sure looked that way.
I mean, Jimmy's the guy who signed off on Watson, but I'd like to believe that did not happen without the endorsement of Stefanski. I would, if Stefanski didn't think that he could run this offense, then he probably would have told him, don't bother. Maybe they wouldn't have went out and got sorry ass Kirk Cousins, who I'm not a fan of. But I don't. I would think that Stefanski had to have some kind of sign off on it before Jimmy was going to pony up those funds. Maybe
but isn't every head coach arrogant enough to go, yeah, I can make this work? Because to me, looking back in hindsight, it feels more like a fantasy football trade than anything. And I know Baker was broken, and he looked like crap out there trying to play through that injury that he had. And I think he did us a disservice and him a disservice by not just sitting the rest of the year, getting surgery early, because it was a contract year. And we could at least have Case Keenum out there and running that offense that he was familiar with. Not that would have saved the season, but I think it would have at least been some credibility that end of that season. Because Baker was done. His accuracy was so bad.
And by sitting him that year, we also could have let him sit and traded him in the offseason and probably gotten something back for him, because the only thing you had you had the end of 2020, which was a playoff year, and he played some pretty solid games the first few games of 2021 before he got hurt. And if they just sat him, and then because they already said they started looking for a quarterback in October of that year, y'all do the math. So if they just sat him at that point, I don't even. It's water on the bridge. The franchise is in the same spot that they were in the end of 2019. At the end of 2021, we don't know how good our quarterback is still. Our defense looks suspect against the run. I just don't know where they go from here. Kind of like Kev said. Now this is the Browns, so we're going to shit the bed against these first four teams, right? And then we're going to come out against these powerhouse squads and probably whoop ass for some unknown reason, just because that's what we do. but I'm not counting on that.